Yeah.
So that's the silver lining, is it now where people have had such a difficult time both purchasing and selling because of whatever their specific circumstance, by marrying yourself up with an experienced crew, we can actually put things together now that we haven't been able to do for the last 2 years. So that's a really exciting time for this market now.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I am your host, Darren Horn, and it gives me great pleasure to be back at the desk recording in our studio at 414 Property Co headquarters.
Yeah.
I'm joined by superstars. Oh, actually, I am joined by superstars. Not only am I joined by John McGregor, who's here day in, day out. Good morning, John.
Good old, it's a trusty horse.
That's right. He's like the furniture. He's just
Yeah, the workhorse. That's what I was trying to find.
safe as houses. Speaking of Clydesdales, just an absolute real workhorse, the stalwart of the factory.
A beautiful horse.
We have
Dressage queen.
we have superstar of real estate here in Hobart, Suz Wiltshire.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Where have you been?
I've been busy.
I can imagine. Yes.
I've got a few hats on at the moment. I'm kind of still in Suz and Laura land. Hello, Laura. I miss you. I'm in listing ninja phase with my cohorts.
Yes.
Who I'm listing with, and then I'm two feet in my new mentoring, which I'm loving.
I know, which is amazing. The ins and outs of kind of running your little workshops that you've been having, and
Loving
then
that.
one-on-one sessions.
Yeah.
It seems to be going gangbusters, and everybody seems to be just kind of being like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
these are the
you
best
come
one
in
things."
and nick the food too. So
Well,
you
yeah, that's the
don't
best
mind it
bit.
either.
I'm rolling through. I'm like, hold on a sec. What's bloody going on in here?
Oh, I better go and take a little photo, and while I'm in there, I'll.
I'll take my little slice. So,
Both information and food.
no, look, I've been listening into a few little tidbits here and there, and they sound very engaging and informative. So, it seems like everything's going really well on that front.
Thank you.
The market's pretty interesting at the moment. We did want to kind of jump in and kind of talk about, I actually really liked when you pitched the idea for this episode, Suz, kind of calling it the silver linings of the...
I think if I can, I might jump into my little bit, because I think what we were liking to call it, if I don't know what we're calling it, Aaron, and what you're going to call it, but it's like this market, we're definitely in, I'm sick of hearing doom and gloom, because we're not. Like, the market had to correct, and we're never in, a market can never stay the same in real estate.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'd never have any what we say heart surgeons or rocket scientists, would we, because they'd all be doing this. And I think really, we just have to ride the storm, and there's always positives. And what I said to you yesterday about how about we do the pod tomorrow, and John, about there's always a silver lining in every black
market.
cloud.
I love it. I love it.
And so I just want to talk about what I think the big positives are. And as you all know me as a person, I try and bring a positive spin to every.
Oh, without doubt. As soon as you mentioned the idea of like, I'm sick of this doom and gloom, and like, let's not listen to all the rubbish.
Yeah, and I think, look, everyone's just throwing everything down everyone's throat of being so negative and so gloomy. It's not. Yes, we are seeing longer days on market, and yes, we are seeing things pared back, but that had to happen. There's no way we could sustain what was happening for those years. I've nearly been doing this, nearly on 9 years. This is definitely a changing market we're in now, so let's not gloss it over.
Yeah, we don't need to sugarcoat what's happening, but
Of course,
something is changing.
Of course, but if I can just, just explain what to me are some real benefits at the moment, and especially for those buyers out there that, for instance, I'll just a little case study for you all. I've worked with some beautiful a beautiful family. So a mother that has a home that are meshing in with a family, so that her daughter, husband and a child. I have seen them painstakingly go through 4 or 5 times now, going through the process of buying a large rural family retreat, basically like a bit of a rural dream, over $1.5 million-ish.
Kind of your McLeod's daughters.
Yeah.
Like
and we have gone through this stage and
cheers. Jeez, I miss those girls.
Oh, yeah, so do I. That was a good show.
It was. Blue Healers and McLeod's daughters on a Wednesday night.
So can we
Sorry.
Go
Sorry,
so well
mate.
with that story.
Rural retreat.
Yeah, rural retreat.
And so these poor people, every time we'd go in, they were a subject to sale of 2 homes, so not only one. Now, how do you reckon they were going to go in the last 3 or 5 years?
Wasn't happening.
That you go to the bottom of 14 offer pile if you were one subject to sale, let alone two.
So just for the layman out there, just like the version of me, so the idea of your offer being accepted
Yes.
would be so much lower because
Yes.
the conditions on yours was like it's a subject to sale
Well, you only
of
not
two
only did you
properties.
have one home to sell, but you had to sell two homes
Yeah.
contemporaneously, settling with each other
Yeah.
with that home.
And in this period, there were offers coming in that were, I've got a cash over.
cash.
It's all these other things. So all these
Cash.
other factors are pushing those people out who are in that position.
Well, they weren't even looking. They just
Yeah.
weren't. They were just like, no. So we would go through that process with them. They were beautiful. They obviously wanted me to handle both of their sales,
Sure.
which is lovely. I wasn't selling the other property necessarily because it was always down Huon Valley, that sort of way. So that was always another bit of a tricky bit because
Got another team you have to
there was
involve.
another agency, that we were sort of always communicating with. And, 9 times out of 10, that was another factor that wasn't, oh, well, we're not getting that listing either. So that was always a little bit of a deterrent.
Yep.
And now, in this market,
Yep.
they've just secured that. So that's a massive plus now. So they've actually secured a beautiful home.
So they were able to get the deals done on two properties
And
selling
they were
so that they
subject to sale. And then not only that, they were able to negotiate now this is real estate terms. They were
it's a
able
real
to
estate podcast. That's what we're here for.
I will try and dumb it, not
Just hit us with the
estate,
details. I can put it through a dumb person filter if you want.
But you've gotten really good at asking the right question, I think.
Yeah, cheers.
but we were able to negotiate. So this is what I'm trying to say. That we need to, this is obviously an episode about the positives about this market. So
Yeah.
let's be all about that. So then we were able to also negotiate the shorter period free clause out of the contract for that whole time. We would never have been able to do that in the other market,
Yep.
let alone get this done. And then the biggest positive for the vendor that they overpaid for the property because of those reasons. So not only, people are saying, oh, it's such a doom and gloom, we're not getting terrible prices.
Yep.
These people, because of that, paid a premium price. So win-win.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that thing where, in that circumstance, they never had an opportunity to be able to buy something. So it's actually they needed to wait a few years for the market to stretch out with a day's increase where they've got a lot more flexibility to negotiate terms that they need because it's so hyper specific and, owners are going to be much more palatable or accepting of those terms because of the market we're in.
Absolutely. And then not only that, when we're, John, I remember these days, 3 or 4 years ago or even a year ago, we were having people putting sunset clauses in
What's
on the
that?
day. So they had to be presented by 6 o'clock that night. So we were having people like 14, 15 offers in on a Saturday.
Yep.
And we were running around like nutters.
Headless
Yeah,
chooks.
so what the strategy of that from a buyer's perspective is they're putting the pressure on. It's like saying, all right, you've got till 5 o'clock tonight to make a decision.
Or my offer.
For my offer.
Yeah,
Expires.
because the idea being, because it had been such a seller's market, the seller had to control. Buyers were trying to find ways of establishing, taking control of that negotiation process.
Yeah.
And a real, a strategy to do that is to say, well, I'm not going to wait until you get 3 other offers. You've got 5 to make a decision, or I'm out.
Oh, I'll go put an offer in on another
something
place
else.
because there's so many.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
So
for sure.
there's just a strategy to try and get control of the process.
Yep. I think the thing I liked that you mentioned right at the start of your story was the correction of the market rather than the crash of the market. Just the terminology of it correcting itself, and it's like
And it hasn't crashed. We're still getting strong prices. It is taking longer. There's no, what I'm saying to the team at the moment is when we're doing our mentoring, look, it certainly when we're listing homes now, our medium house, term on market is about a month.
Yep.
It's about 37 days.
rather than hitting that kind of first weekend and just being boom, I've done it, guys.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like
look how good I am.
we list on a Monday, expect contracts Wednesday, but we'll make a decision the following Monday.
Yeah.
No, it's just like, look, the beats are longer
Stretching
now.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And now if I can stress more than ever, and I'll let John do his thing. I've probably spoken enough now.
No, we got heaps.
That's not how it works.
Just run deep. Run deep.
We keep rolling, baby.
Is that now is so imperative, and we are going to see, obviously we saw a ton of agents come on in the last 3 or 4 years where they're just, not being awful, but,
It'll be interesting to see.
Could have joined real estate and, so it's great to see that obviously they're tightening up of what you need to come on and be an agent. But I think that, now it is so imperative of agency that you choose.
Indeed.
agent that you choose. So, yes, we have some up and coming agents in here and some that are, what would deem to be up and coming agents, but they have a team behind them with such wealth of experience that we all pull together and we all support them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the other thing I'm loving about kind of the way your role has changed since Laura's had her bub, and we've kind of moved you into this, or you've mentored all these people and being like, I've got this amazing listing and I know that this person can nurture it so well. So, yeah, you're kind of that support network of like, yeah, you've got me and another agent who's an expert in this area. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the team at 414 is kind of, all moving together and being like, let's get the best result for you that way. As
an agency as well, like, you guys are not, I pump your tires up every time I come in here, Aaron, but marketing is now more imperative than ever.
Oh, that's why I love you coming in.
Yeah.
But, and we're doing our next workshop on the 17th, and I just love that. My workshops are my favourite thing to do. Next one is how to, we just want to wow people with our open homes and things like that. So just to have an agency and agents that are so willing to learn and just grow.
Yeah, definitely.
But just over and above is our tagline. And I think that's the thing that just, you just can't be normal or average anymore, especially in this market. So just, be really, really careful who you're choosing to sell your home now.
Well, one of the things that experience is really important right now because one of the examples we had recently was there was 4 properties all lined up in a row where, finance wasn't to be able to prove it on one front end. And so, but there was no, which would, topple down 3 other properties, which would completely kill everyone else.
I just had one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the solution was that, everyone had to reassess their expectations and all prices were adjusted and terms were renegotiated across 3 contracts. So they
could have all fallen over.
Absolutely. But it was because one of our younger agents, they thought that, we're done. But it wasn't until Patrick stepped in and said, hey, just so you know, here's another option for us. And then he helped out with the negotiations and pulled all the things back together. And one of my dad's classic examples was they had 14 subject to sales in a row once.
I remember this story. This one's crazy.
But the thing is though, is that, if you've been in the, you've got, it is what it is. Like over time you build experience. However, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, it was easy to do you could say we had an overinflated view of self-importance, but the market was driving the easy terms, the deals. Okay, we can make that argument, but right now that's just not a possibility. So, our role in terms of being able to build, put these deals together when it does require 3, 4, 5, 6 parties in order just for one house to sell for 6 to pull still together, like that requires nuance, it requires patience, it requires skill, and
experience and as you've mentioned, the team behind you are people who can kind of swing in and say like, oh, you might just need to look at it just a little bit differently. Or you might just have like, oh, I've had a time where we had to make this happen to get this deal. Like, oh, actually that'll work perfectly for this one. So having that, team behind you and that experience. Yeah.
So that's the silver lining, is it now where people have had such a difficult time both purchasing and selling because of whatever their specific circumstance, by marrying yourself up with an experienced crew, we can actually put things together now that we haven't been able to do for the last 2 years. So that's a really exciting time for this market now. So I think, so one of the things that we, was a new opportunity, I guess, and that's what I was thinking was a really good compliment to what you were talking about, Susie, was going on to a little bit more deep dive about the home share program now that the state government has released.
Yeah, this is really cool. We popped a blog together kind of about this. So this was kind of helping those first home buyers get into the market, and we've talked about it kind of before.
But not just first home buyers.
Okay, sweet.
Home buyers.
Hit me with some more. No, you hit me with more details, because this is where kind of I was looking into it as like, it used to be just on new builds, but now there's scope for it to be on established homes and stuff. So can you kind of feed us some info on that?
Yeah. So the biggest one I remember the REIT had the housing director come into our board meeting before it was fully announced.
Just before we continue, speaking of the REIT, are we allowed to talk about?
Yes, exciting.
About some news on that front.
Yes, that's true.
So we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Johnny Mac.
El Presidente. Well, technically it's not. So there's a couple of arms to the institute. So they've got the board of directors, but then there are the southern branch. So which is just a smaller offshoot for other responsibilities. But they asked me to be the president of the Southern Branch.
Hot damn, we are sitting in a room with royalty.
I'll take it. Why not?
Yeah, look at this. So congrats, my man.
Congrats.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Thanks,
He
crew.
did get a little present from me. Did you want to talk to them about your card, Johnny Mac, that it actually looked like you put a little rabbit?
the bunny with the monocle. I still should get a monocle.
I think you should just put it in your pocket and wear it every day.
But I did appreciate the fact you're acknowledging my style. So
and wine.
Yeah, no, that's
we're proud of you, mate. We're lucky to have you.
Thanks, Suz.
We're really rapt to share days with you. You're an oracle of wisdom. So
no, it's nice. Like I think one of the things I got from my parents actually was that we're really big on giving back as much as we can. In terms of because it's all volunteer work realistically.
Yeah.
But when there are those of us that will say, look, I can't believe they're doing this. Well, why don't you help them make it,
Do something about it.
So sort of, I suppose, it's something we're passionate about,
Yeah, no, look, a massive congrats. And yeah, it's a great accomplishment and achievement to be invited to be the president of the Southern Branch. So
thanks,
hats
guys.
off that we don't have. And
I
well played.
appreciate that.
Sorry to jump in on your
but
on
I
your
mean,
stats
one of the interesting things about being in these positions that you do, if they consult us, they don't always, but we do have conversations with those parties that actually implement these programs. Not to say that the REIT had an impact. It didn't. However, it is nice to have those conversations, get to ask questions at a different level.
Yeah, for sure.
But one of this is not the first time something like this has existed in Tassie. And I know people might be familiar with the First Home Buyers Grant that's been around for some time now. This one was a good way to think about it is they'll go, it's easy for you because you've got the bank of mum and dad to throw down a deposit.
Okay.
So what the government wanted to do then is, could they step in and help in those situations?
Mm-hmm. So the government become the bank of mum and dad,
that's
per
right.
se?
Yeah, so the state government or the director of housing.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, they called it the My Home program. And it wasn't just for first home buyers and it wasn't just for first home builds. Mm-hmm. It was they acknowledged the fact that, then there's so many people that are in a sticky situation that
can't wait for building and can't wait for council approval and that kind of thing.
And are in a situation where they can't afford $100,000 to save. Mm-hmm. A long time ago, one of our listeners actually wrote in to say she was a single mum with 2 kids, couldn't save. Mm-hmm. But she finally got herself into her home, not in this program, but goddamn it was hard for her.
Yeah.
And she did need help. But not everyone has friends and family that can pitch in to get that first little leg. And when you've got a single income, you've got kids, and it's like, oh God, now I've got to save 50, 60K. It almost just seems like it's not a possibility.
Yeah, you can't do it and pay rent at the same time. It's almost impossible.
So what they've done is that in this particular program, they are the Director of Housing becomes a co-owner in the property. So what they'll do is that they'll help provide that ingoing deposit, which is 30% up, 30% of the value of the home, up to $150,000 as a maximum.
Yes, and it's up to it's a $600,000.
The $600,000 threshold.
Yes,
so that goes in line with the first home buyer incentives, where at $600,000 first home buyers get 50% off the stamp duty.
That's right.
So it is capped at a price limit, but it's not capped at age or circumstance. There's only some certain eligibility criteria that you need to meet. Mm-hmm. So even if you've owned a home before and life's been hard on you,
you can still be eligible for this program,
which is great.
So they do asset. There's one principal thing, you need to be a citizen. So they can't allow that to migrants that are temporary.
With FIRB, that's a different thing. Yeah.
So, and then with that though, is that you do have some asset thresholds. So I think it's roughly you can't own more than $100,000 in assets. These numbers aren't exact, but we'll just roughly go. We've only limited on.
Look, there's a blog out there that we put together. Nino, the superstars, pop that together. So head over to 414
with some stats.
And the fact sheets they've put together, partnered with the Bank of Us, is really good.
Yeah, cool.
And Johnny Mac, do you know? Probably cutting to the chase a little bit here. So when they go to sell the home, and that's when they would take their share of equity back. I'd take it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things.
That's the biggest thing.
So there's a couple of scenarios here. So the first thing, once you can get approval, they will be a co-owner. There's a couple of things you need to meet. So obviously you still need to be approved that you could service a loan, whatever that amount at the end of the day may be. And secondly, too, they do require you to have a building inspection clause with a defect limit of 10 grand. I know I've discussed it on the pod previously, but just quickly, it's to say that if a building inspector goes through and find damages to the property in excess of that 10 grand, well, then you can, withdraw from the contract. So obviously the Director of Housing doesn't want a situation where they're buying a bunch of dumps.
Yeah, of course. course.
quite simply.
Yeah.
So because they can't guarantee it on a new home, if they're letting it be in established homes, they need to be, they need to be of quality.
Good quality, yeah.
Sure.
So how that plays out then is you're settled, you're in, you're at Suz Wiltshire and the Director of Housing that's owns the property. What that means is that they'll have a percentage share. So it may be 20% ownership or 30% ownership. And in the event that you go to sell, well, they need to get paid. And if the property increases in value, well, they've got a 30% share. So they actually get a return on their investment as well.
Yep.
So obviously you get a return on your investment.
They do as well.
Yeah, but because it's an investment for them, they're not gifting you the money. Obviously, they have to be repaid back.
Yeah, for sure.
So in one scenario, talked about they've got situations of scenarios, be it a first home buyer. They've got one that's a dad with 2 kids. They've got a family growing in land. So in his case scenario, he had a situation where he had 20. Oh, another thing too is that you only need 2%.
Yeah, so I think it works out to be something like 12 grand on
12 grand.
600,000.
Yes.
But that's a much more achievable goal than 60 or 70.
1,000%. 1,000%.
So in one scenario that they provided, you can still add more to your deposit. Remember, it's just they will invest deposit up to 150,000 as a maximum.
And not only that, obviously, then the stamp duty, the 50% stamp duty rebate as well helps.
Yes.
And then cutting it down by about 6 or 7 grand as well.
And that's the thing, like that enables the loan for you to repay to be much more easy to manage. So when you are selling, in the end, you will need approval from the Director of Housing because they are co-signees.
Yeah.
And the other part too is that if there is an increase in value, you will benefit from that value, but so will they.
Okay.
So it's not like that you've just got 150 grand and you win it. However, one thing that I don't believe has been fleshed out yet, because we had a situation when in the old scheme where there was a client who bought a brand new home but was trying to sell it at the property to loss. So
what happens then?
Yeah, so that was a really difficult one.
Do you still owe them that money or?
Well, and that's I don't know whether or not we couldn't get an easy answer at the time to walk through that scenario, but it's sort of one that's going to be that. Fortunately enough, it was so rare that it wasn't. But there's sort of it's going to be a one-on-one, very very specific, and there won't be a blanket rule on that case.
Okay, sure.
Because think of the scenario where I bought it for 600, but I need to sell it for 650. Do you take the loss and just so does the Director of Housing? So that's a real sticky one because think of it from the public. The public isn't going to want everyone to think, well, holy shit, they're investing our the public funds and they're taking losses on all these properties. So it's in a simple scenario, no trouble.
Well, I think they're hoping that your long-term investments and they're going to return some. And
so that was where too is that if you chose to refinance the property and buy out their share. So a simple scenario, they bought the property for 600. It's now
worth 780 or something.
Yeah, why not? Well, if you refinance in order to buy out the share, the Director of Housing you still have to pay them at the new value, so it's always
they're still making their growth. Yeah.
And it's a good way to think about it that they're investing with you. It's not a handout. They're investing with you. So but the great thing is that if there are those people that legitimately are stuck and cannot, and sometimes too, we worked out, had this conversation with a couple of our tenants who's in a long-term lease, but the owners want to sell the property. We worked out if we put them, encourage them to have a look through this home share scenario, they'll actually pay less in rent. They'll obviously sometimes the house isn't going to be as good as what they are, but we said, well, look, you move. If we put you into another rental, you're in the exact same situation. And one of the guys had moved.
The cycle of
one of you moved every year for 6 years, and so they're not getting anywhere.
Not leveling up. They're just kind of sitting at the same status quo.
But they realise, actually, I've got that. I can't buy a house with a large deposit, but I've got enough for this one. It's like, well, what if we could, maneuver you into at least then you've got some stability because the Director of Housing isn't going to go, I want my house back. So so this program, I think, is a really strong one for especially tenants
stability
in a real cycle of, stability for those then that, don't have the capacity to save up for a 10, 20,000 deposit, and they don't have the family, and this is where it steps in because I think from the Director of Housing's perspective is as best as they can to get everyone on their own, on their own feet and not
And
relying
you don't
on
have to spend 600. I mean, you could be buying a unit for 450 or something like
exactly.
that. So
Yeah.
obviously then you're talking about not needing anywhere near a $12,000 deposit. It might be 8 or something like that. So it's much more
exactly.
achievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is that your weekly repayments are done. So, what you'll do is at the moment it's through the Bank of Us, so they're the approved lender, so they can put your interest down, and then someone will contact about it. But of course, if anyone can reach out to our company, we can help put them in touch with the right channels.
Beautiful.
But it's just a really encouraging program where, again, even in the throwback, is it in the hot market 2 years ago? No owner would have accepted these terms
Because and they're a little bit more onerous with the build.
that's it, because longer finance periods, other elements. But now, because this market's correcting, now these people have got an opportunity to make this happen.
Absolutely.
So it's another silver lining for people that have been off, waiting on the sidelines. But it's been impossible. Now's the time to be able to make that happen.
Bringing it all together. How about that? The silver linings, the corrections. I'm loving it, guys. Absolute cracker. Thank you so much for coming in. Can I give you just one little silver lining that I wanted to mention? It's got nothing to do with real estate.
Is it about the people that you work with every day?
Oh, look, they bring so much joy to me every day.
these.
But yeah, these bad boys.
I love them. They look like cork.
I know. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Just take a
Shall we
little
hold them
nibble. Just have a little bite.
And mine's got chocolate.
Look at that. I hope there's not any ASMR people out there that, maybe they would like that noise. But anyway, I just want to shout out Ruby J Espresso up in Derwent Park. It's, where the Aliens Clinic is.
Yeah.
It's like a hole in the wall there. Ria that runs that place has, these amazing, so it's good Eddie cups. And
Do you eat them?
yeah, eat them. They're edible.
I wish everyone could use these and not throw another paper cup in the bin.
Well, the cool thing,
and they're vegan.
And my coffee's been sitting there, since the start, and nothing's been like.
I wish we could tell the story. I wish we could tell the story of why you've got the chocolate one.
And no, there is chocolate on the wire.
No, look, I
Is it chocolate?
I went in there on Friday on a recommendation from you guys.
But it is damn good.
And they're actually quite tasty.
So I went in there on Friday on a recommendation from
Tastes like
superstar
cereal.
employee here, Michaela, who just rocked the podcast the other week as well. Those guys,
Oh, and you can plant in them too. So you can put your little plants
That's
in the
so
ground,
cool,
like
isn't it?
seedlings. Oh, I'm
Brilliant
all over
idea.
this.
Yeah, so it's a company out of Victoria in Coburg. It's saying eat it, compost it, plant it. You can bin it if
I
you
love
want
it.
to. But
and but then not
Rather not.
disappear.
You can just eat them.
yeah, so it's a really, really cool idea. We
it.
love all the sustainable stuff here at 414 and looking after our planet. So watch this space and head into Ruby J Espresso in Derwent Park. You won't be disappointed. My son had the best time with the hot chocolate that was
really?
made. So a massive silver lining on that side of the fence. So
100%.
shout out to Ruby J and the good Eddie cups as well.
Cool.
Did you guys want to cover off on anything else before we finish up? Or
I think only that we continue on our beast mode. We've just employed another family member.
we have, yes.
And I think we've got place for like two more.
There's always room.
There's always room for
There's
more.
always room for good people.
And I didn't realise that we had signage on our beautiful bunker until I drove past yesterday. It looked
So
amazing.
shout out to the Open to View crew out there
That
as
looks
well.
awesome.
Our bunker now just looks
seriously-
schmickers. It's kind of the matte black with a gloss circle.
But
so
seriously cool.
look, 414 is an exciting place to be. Shout out to everybody that's listening to the Property Pod. We love coming here every week, and we've got people fighting to get in the studio, which is the best bit. I came in, Michaela.
It's been like 3 or 4 months since I've.
I know, and
know,
when you
rude.
came with us with the idea, I was just like, yes.
The lesson is if you come with us an idea, you're in. That's the winning combination right there. Like, just come with an idea and take a seat.
Ah, yeah,
do it every week.
1,000%.
We're always looking for topics.
No, look, we love our listeners. Shout out to everyone out there that is a part of the Property Pod. We will be back next week. Who knows who'll be in the studio? It might not even be me. Could be someone else hitting the buttons.
Ooh, might be a guest.
Guest button presser. That'll be fun. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for
The
having
market
me.
is correcting, not crashing. Just let it be known. And see you.
Till then.
Bye.
You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.